Let's create our first PHP file and display data from our database. So with your site open, go to File, New, and then PHP. And then select Create. Make sure that you've got your split view and you've got design selected. So with our PHP file now, we want to go to Window and then Databases. First thing was to create a site for this file. We've done that. We've created our PHP file, and actually we should save that one now. So go File, Save As, and we're going to call it index.php. So index.php is our home page, and most home pages will be called index. It might be index.html or index.php or some other index, but it always starts with index and may have a different file extension. So we've created a site for this file. We've done that. We've chosen a document type, that was PHP, it says here, and we've set up the site's testing server. Now hopefully that's worked for you. If not, you may need to copy some files. We'll see that later. Now the final step 4, create a connection by clicking on the plus above, so this one here. So click on MySQL connection. So connection name, we'll call it IPT. The MySQL server is localhost because it's running on our machine. Username is root. Password, we don't have a password set up by default. Very bad practice in real life or when you're actually having this system run and being used by your proper users, but it's fine for testing purposes. And database. So if we click on select, let's see what happens. We get a listing of our databases. So hopefully you get that listing. Hopefully you don't get an error message. If there is an error message, you may need to copy some files. So select database IPT, which I created earlier, and we could also test, and you get this message about there being no password. Yes, it's a bad practice in production or live environments. So we can say don't show me again, okay, and it's working, and then you can click OK. Now what if everything didn't go smoothly in those last few steps? Well, you might be missing some files, unfortunately. In your RAS folder, after my successful steps just then, I've got 2 files in particular. So this is my exam htdocs RAS, and within it now I've got this server scripts, and there's 2 files in there. So Dreamweaver generated those files and copied those to my server for me. If you don't have those, what you'll need to do is manually create this folder if needed, and then go to this location. I'm on a Windows 8 platform, so it may be different for Windows 7 and certainly different for Macs. C drive program files, Adobe Dreamweaver, CC 2014, configuration, connections, scripts, PHP_MySQL, MMDB scripts. And within that, on a Windows 8 platform, you'll find these 2 files. They're the files that should be in your RAS folder, in your C drive exam htdocs RAS. So if you did have problems testing the database or getting the list of databases coming up, you need those 2 files. So you just copy those, and I can go back. If I didn't have everything working, I would go to C drive exam htdocs RAS, create this folder if need be, and copy those 2 files into here. Fortunately, everything's working for me, so I can move on. So we've got our databases here. The next thing we're going to do is create a record set. So a record set is as the name suggests, it's a set of records from the database. So each row of a table in the database is going to be contained by a record set. So we've got this databases panel. You may want to move that. Depending on your choice, I'm just going to put it in the top right here. And I'm going to go to Window and then Server Behaviors. And we see this again. And I'm actually going to dock that to the top right as well. Oops, I've messed it up. Doesn't matter. You can move it around to your heart's content. So now I'm going to click on this server behaviors and the plus, and we're going to go, you have to be careful about where your mouse cursor is. So I can put it there, and I'm going to click this record set. Okay, we're given a few options for the record set. The first one is the name, so I'm going to change that to something a bit more meaningful than record set 1. So RS customer. So we're looking at the customer table by default, but you can select here any of your other tables. So RS customer, columns, and we are going to look at filtering and sorting in a later video, but for now you can just click OK. Okay, so down here you see that Dreamweaver has generated all this code. So imagine having to manually write that. That would be very painful. But Dreamweaver has done that for you. So how do we actually, we've got our record set now, how do we actually display the data? So what we need to do is to scroll to the bottom and just make sure again that your cursor is in the body, and then we'll look at displaying some data in our record set. So go to Windows and then go to Bindings, and let's drag that one up, and I'll put that one next to the server behaviors. Oops. And actually I'm going to drag databases up. So I'll move that one across. You can set up these panels the way you like, but databases, and then I'll have server behaviors, and then I'll have bindings. So I've got all my database related panels in one position, and I've got my site down here. So set it up the way you like it. So we have to go to our bindings tab now, and just you've got your record set RS customer, which we just created using server behaviors. Go to bindings, and when you click on this you get a list of all the fields again. Now we should be able to just drag this record set onto our web page, and that's going to generate some more code to display the actual values of the rows in our database. I'm just going to drag one by one. So I'm dragging customer ID and first name, and that'll actually do. So when you're dragging, normally you would have a table or some other HTML code, and you would drag these fields into the HTML where you want these things to be displayed. So this is a very simple display, but it proves our point. So let's save the index.php now. And we've saved it to our local site folder, so it's saved in here. But we need to synchronize with our testing server. To do that, we click on Synchronize with Testing Server. Click on that. And then you can preview. And by previewing, it'll give you a list of things that have changed. So all things that are new. So we've got index.php, we just created that before, and it's got connections.ipt. That contains the code for connecting to our database. Fortunately with Dreamweaver, we don't have to worry about it too much. And then we've got the put, so that just means we're adding it to the server. So click on OK then. So we've synchronized. So let's test it out. Our server should be running, just check that. But let's go to browser and type in localhost/RIS. There we go. And we've got a bit of output. We've only got 2 bob. Well, that's not very much data, and we may have been expecting more than 1 row. So why have we only got 1 row? Well, by default, we only get 1 row using this record set. But let's have a look at our phpMyAdmin. So I've actually got 2 customers in here. So this is the customers table I'm showing. Customers selected, and I went to browse, and I've got 2 rows in here. So by default, just dragging across these fields will only display 1 customer, but there's many other options which we'll look in next videos about how we can customize the display of data.